Welcome to Green Building Matters, the original and most popular podcast focused on the green building movement. Your host is Charlie Cicchetti, one of the most credentialed experts in the green building industry and one of the few to be honored as a lead fellow. Each week, Charlie welcomes a green building professional from around the globe to share their war stories, career advice, and unique insight into how sustainability is shaping the built environment. So settle in, grab a fresh cup of coffee, and get ready to find out why green building matters.
Hi, everybody. This is a special episode of the Green Building Matters podcast. I'm your host, Charlie Cicchetti. We've started a tradition, my team and I, around the end of January because that's my birthday, January 27th. And I just, my team asked me to reflect on 2023, to also kind of walk through some things that I'm excited about for 2024 and this green building movement. And I just want to kind of share some notes with all of you, our loyal listeners. So first, thank you for listening to the Green Building Matters podcast. Some of you have been listening all 5, now 6 years and counting. It's just amazing. We're over 6 years. We're over 300 episodes. I just have a fun job as a green building specialist, as a trainer, as an educator, as a consultant, as a green building entrepreneur, to set aside a little time each week to interview someone that's really made a difference in this movement. Some are early in their career, some are OG and really helped write the book on, say, LEED. Some have been the first to do green building work in their entire country. And I've just made a lot of friends literally all over the world. And so I'm grateful that this podcast continues to have momentum. And thank you to our listeners. Thank you to our podcast production team. A special shout out to Carla, to Danny, to Dragan, and Christina for keeping the Green Building Podcast moving. I will give you a teaser. We're going to really grow the Green Building Matters brand this year, later in 2024. Look out for potentially a summit, kind of a conference. Look out for a blog. And who knows, maybe even a book in the not too distant future. All right, let's talk about 2023, some things that I'm proud of when it comes to this work that we do. Well, it was a pretty wild year for me personally and business-wise, but I really am proud of some amazing conferences, some I got to speak at overseas in Mexico City and in Barcelona and other places. And again, just meeting friends in this green building community. It's such an amazing community. If you listen to our podcast, you get that from every one of our guests. It's such a special place that the trust transfers, the collaboration transfers. Don't keep the winning formulas to yourself on how to improve a small building, a home, or a very large complex of buildings. And so I'm really proud of some travels that I was fortunate to do in 2023. Really also the U.S. Green Building Council and the International Well Building Institute. Fortunately, I know some of the team there, the executives there. I think they hosted great conferences. I think they both, because they're the two most popular green building and healthy building certifications, arguably in the world, they have a lot of responsibility as they make their adjustments. What's next? So in a minute, I'll talk a little bit about LEED version 5, but I think they're doing a great job, leading and really trying to accommodate some changes that are needed here because buildings are different, needs are different, especially in this post-pandemic world now. I think looking back, there's some predictions I have for 2024 that were slowed because of the pandemic, and now they're speeding up again. Some other things I'm really proud of are our green building and technology companies that I'm fortunate to be a part of. So a few quick updates from SIG, Sustainable Investment Group, our green building consulting, engineering, and ESG services firm. Nick and the team there just continuing to grow the team, hire amazing people, and do amazing certification and energy saving and ESG work for clients. Huge portfolios. 65-story towers. Heck, the team was awarded a 74-story tower in South Korea from a major developer, all the way down to that school in your community. And so just love the culture being built there, the certifications, the plaques left and right, and really the sharing of the expertise with friends in industry, with clients, with universities and guest lectures. So go SIG team. And a lot of that sharing of expertise sometimes comes over to GBES.com, where a lot of you know us. And that's our online education company. And Dean and the team there are continuing to roll out new coursework, really some master level courses, right? If a 101 level course is, what is this? A 201 is, why should I care? A 301 is, how do I do it? And a 401 is, how do I master this subject? Really proud of the GBES team for rolling out more of that. 301, how do I do it? And 401, how do I master it? So take a look at some of the advanced coursework there. And of course, all things GBES.com. You have your core lead exam prep, well exam prep, sites exam prep, and all the continuing ed you need to put your green building career on autopilot. So that team continuing to hum along and put out great content and education. We've got our technology company, Blue Ocean Sustainability, a lab to market tech hub that Christina Bach leads. And we've graduated a couple tools, and one of those is Schema. And that's an AI tool for architects and developers. It's amazing to have brought in some of the original team from Revit to be a part of this. And it's so exciting to see designers saving about 2 months on every single project they're designing, because this tool, Schema, is able to, really take your previous Revit data and carry that forward and really kind of automate a lot of your next design. Now, it's not a push a button, get your entire building designed, but it's a push a button and get a 60 to 70% head start. So I'm learning a lot about the architectural world. I'm not an architect by training, more construction and green buildings and real estate. And it's amazing to see these designers just getting this acceleration with a true AI tool that has about a 5-year head start. So a big shout out to the Schema and Blue Ocean team. And then finally, another company I'm a part of. It's amazing. It's a venture-backed company here in Atlanta, Georgia called Atos. Connor leading that team. And it's a digital twin, but you overlay really all things on how to run that facility, that equipment, that tribal knowledge. Someone that's been running that building for many years, maybe he's going to retire out. How do you preserve that information right there in a digital as-built? And the team is just doing a fantastic job with the reality capture and overlaying IoT and all of this information, this tribal knowledge, all of the maintenance records right there in that 4K, but really 3D and to scale digital twin that's very usable, that real-time captured as-built. So it's fascinating what we're seeing that tool used for to really run buildings, but also save energy, right? There's a common theme amongst all 4 of these amazing companies that I get to play a little part in, and that is sustainability. So proud of all of our teams. I love creating jobs. I love hiring people, and all of our business units did a lot of that in 2023. So those are some things I'm very proud of in 2023. So let's take a look at 2024. Here's some things I'm either tracking or really excited about, and I think you should be too. So the reality is the pandemic slowed some of these things I'm about to tell you about, and I think they're finally speeding back up. It's not like no work was being done on these fronts. It just wasn't being talked about as much. So here's some of Charlie's predictions for 2024. Now that the pandemic is truly in our rear view mirror, we've got to focus more on net zero energy buildings. We're seeing more mandates around this. We want to be net zero energy ready. We want to make sure we're getting back to biophilia, to circular design. We're going to see a little bit of all that pushed for by LEED version 5. A couple things there with LEED version 5. And LEED version 5 is going to help put some emphasis back on some of these topics I want you reading up on. Maybe some of you are really out in front of. A few bullet points here on LEED version 5. Well, we've already got the LEED version 5 draft for existing buildings and operations and maintenance that was announced at the Green Build Conference. Next, we're going to see it for building design and construction and then the other rating systems. So be looking for that here in 2024. Now, all of this is in its beta. There'll be some adjustments. You can still comment. Then it'll get voted on and locked in. And then later, date to be determined, our projects will be forced to use LEED version 5. So keep going with your LEED version 4 and LEED version 4.1 projects, but be reading up on and getting ready for and getting excited about LEED version 5. Now, here's some other good news. After this major update, LEED version 5 will be a major update, but for the good. The U.S. GBC has already said they're not going to do their next version of LEED until 2030. So we got to get it right on this one. Then we'll be good for about 5+ years. So there's some good news in there. The team at GBS here, your educators, we're tracking it all. We'll update the practice tests and the continue ed accordingly, but you won't need to worry about that until best case late 2024. Reality is rolling into 2025. So we've got to all read up on LEED version 5. Let's be excited. Let's support the US GBC nationally and our local chapters and get the word out about this programming. Again, net zero energy, biophilia, circular design, all of that has been making progress, but it just hasn't been talked about as much, I would argue, last year compared to where I think you're going to see a lot more of it in 2024. Next, smart buildings, IoT, and AI. AI is here to stay. I, for one, do really believe that AI will help with our sustainability and our climate damage reversal. So we've got to get our IoT, we've got to get that data, we've got to see how that can not just help our existing buildings run better, but how that information can get to our designers on that next new building or that next renovation. Along with all of this, we're going to see a lot more adaptive reuse. Commercial office has been getting pinched in several markets. We're going to see some office buildings that are going to get repurposed. The office to multifamily conversion, the office to life science conversion. Hey, there's no greener building than an existing building. So let's lean in here. Some of you might want to say, hey, this could be some newfound scope. How can I support these kind of buildings when I normally do tenant improvements or I normally do ground up? So be ready for adaptive reuse and conversions. And with all of that, let's make sure we're making healthy spaces. I think you're going to continue to see growth around well and fit well, but you're really going to also just have those healthy building best practices baked in. So again, this time of year, around my birthday, which in my household, we love celebrating birthdays. So last year was a big one for me. I think I had about a birthday month. This year, 41, we'll call it a birthday week. It's a time for me personally, a new year, to look back, then to look ahead, get excited about what's happening here in our movement, in our community. So here's some things I'm tracking. I wanted to give some shout outs to our podcast team, to all of our businesses, the hard work that they've been doing, and what we really are facing here as we hit 2024, sometimes anchored around LEED, but so many other great mandates. We're seeing a lot of progress, not just here in the U.S., but other countries. And again, personally, and for my teams, we're going to be getting out more. We're going to be stamping the passport, taking some of our expertise into some new regions. Hey, if you want to be a part of that, or you just want to collaborate, or you just want to chat, again, please reach out. If you have a special guest you think would be great for the podcast, they don't have to be a LEED fellow, just someone that needs to be honored and really affirmed about what they've done and their journey, and it's inspiring. Please shoot me an email, charlie@gbes.com. All right, everybody, have an awesome rest of your day.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Green Building Matters podcast. At gbes.com, our mission is to advance the green building movement through best-in-class education and encouragement. Remember, you can go to gbes.com/podcast for any notes and links that we mentioned in today's episode, and you can actually see the other episodes that have already been recorded with our amazing guests. Please tell your friends about this podcast. Tell your colleagues. And if you really enjoyed it, leave a positive review on iTunes. Thank you so much, and we'll see you on next week's episode.